This is Nandi Taylor, and I'm the author of the fantasy romance novel Given, chatting here today with Ronnie.
So, hello, Nandi. And how do you pronounce the name again? Let's just be clear so everybody knows, because I just spent the past half an hour completely screwing it up.
It's Nandi.
Oh, okay, Nandi. Okay, so good to meet you again. I love the little runes you drew all over the book. I think those were different for.
Yes, and yeah, I came up with those based on the writing systems, two writing systems in West Africa, the Adinka runes of Ghana and Nsibidi runes of Nigeria. And I just kind of put them together so that they formed something that looked kind of cool. And they're actually featured on the cover, the paperback cover I've given as well.
Okay, cool. That's pretty cool. I hadn't seen that before. I thought they were the runes that she was drawing on there, but I didn't think you actually had the actual language there. That's a lot of detail that's gone into the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a brand new cover for you. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I was really excited when Wattpad told me that they were doing a new cover for the paperback, because who doesn't like more character art, right? And what I love about this cover is it has a bit more of a romantic vibe, um, which I think is really articulates what's the story, right? Because it's primarily a romance. It's a good mix of like adventure, romance, and fantasy. And so the color scheme is kind of very soft and warm, and then the way that they my character Yani's interacting with the dragon Weish. I think it's a very good depiction of what to expect from this book.
Okay, and what do we want to expect from this book?
Yes, so Given is the story of Yani Ajani, who is an island princess, and her father is very ill, and no one can seem to tell what's going on with him. So she goes on a sacred journey to try and find a way to cure him. The journey has two purposes. One, it's to please the gods. There's this tradition of going on these long pilgrimages to please the gods and win their favor. The other is to find out more about this illness, because she's heard that it's also been cropping up in an empire to the north. Maybe they know something about it. So she enrolls in a magic academy there, and it's about her experiences with culture shock, prejudice, and she also meets this brash, shape-shifting dragon named Weish, who claims they are given or destined soulmates.
Okay, awesome. How long have you been writing this novel? Because it was on Wattpad before, and then
Mhm.
Wattpad Books picked it up. What's the journey for you?
Yes. So I started writing this in 2015, 14, 15. So it's been a good 6 years in the making. The first draft I just kind of wrote on my own, and then I started to type it up, and I was part of this beta actually for Amazon had their own writing platform that was supposed to be, I guess, the answer to Wattpad.
I remember that.
It was called Write On,
I remember that.
and
I
they
was on
started
that for a
putting
while too.
chapters. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was interesting. It had a different vibe.
I liked
It
it.
seemed like people were more interested in critiquing and things like this. But it was smaller, so that's to be expected. I think the audience was mostly writers, whereas Wattpad's audience is largely readers. Um, so that's where you see that difference. But I was putting it up on there, but I didn't get too far before I realized I really wanted to rework it quite a bit. And then Right On lasted, I don't know, a year before they shut down. And that's when I moved Given over to Wattpad, because I took a look at what was going on Wattpad, and I was like, you know what? It looks like the two most popular genres on Wattpad are fantasy and romance, and my book just happens to be both. So I think it should do pretty well on there. I just wanted to get eyes on my book, get some encouragement, validation. Um, you know, yeah, end game was I wanted to get published, and I'm really happy that that happened. But most importantly, I was just looking for like a community and people to get eyes on my work. And so in that regard, I was really Wattpad was perfect. And so yeah, that was how it came about. So a good 6 years from that first draft to the Right On draft to the Wattpad draft, and then working with an editor and then a copy editor. So I'd say five drafts in total.
Yeah, people seem to think, especially the younger writers, seem to think there's this magical formula for success on Wattpad that they can just go and take their
Mm.
books, write it, and throw it up, and all of a sudden people will come in. Um, I, I know that you know the struggle, and that it's definitely nothing is
Hmm.
overnight.
No.
Oh, you know what? I shouldn't do that. I should not answer the question in the question. So, can you tell me a little bit about your how long it took for you to gain traction on Wattpad?
I actually have I started writing a book on Wattpad just like a couple of weeks ago about this,
I know I saw
my
that.
journey
That's why I'm giving you a little thing here. So go.
yeah. So if anyone wants to check that out, but yeah, it took me. I started uploading Given in 2017, but before that, actually, I had uploaded a book, a novella called Wish Tester, which was primarily fantasy about a society where jinn are captured by a king, and in order to make wishes on these jinn, you have to pay, and you have to get a wish specially written out in the perfect wording so that the jinn can't curse you, right? Because they're trapped in these big bulbs at the top of the castle. Of course, they're gonna do whatever they can to these stupid people coming to ask them for wishes. But the whole premise of that book that went up in 2014 was that you could be someone who tests the wording for wishes, which could work out really well for you if the wording is airtight, or it could be a disaster. So only usually the most desperate people would be wish testers. And it's about one boy's journey as a wish tester. I won't give too much of it away. It's free. It's on Wattpad. If you want to read it, you can. But that was my very first upload, and that was in 2014. And that did okay. It still has like 30,000 reads or something on it, but it did win a Waddy. Um, and I say this because after that, I took a very long break. Um, and I didn't upload again until 2017. And that next book was Given. And that one didn't start to gain traction till like 6 months later. So it took some time. I only had like 290 followers or something like that when I started Given. And of course, by the end now I have like 26,000. So the book did well. Like there was a point where it was the number two fantasy book on the whole site. Um, and I guess I did that by one, writing a book I think people would like to read, taking everything I knew about craft and writing over the last decade and putting that into this draft. Two, I went out and solicited reads, but not by, I didn't do the thing where you just kind of blast people's inboxes or put your book on people's message boards. That's very annoying. It makes you look like a clown. Please stop doing that. um, Whoever's doing it, I'm telling you right now, it does not impress the people who you do it to. Um, if anything, I think I'm going to start just going and roasting people's books who keep
Oh,
doing that to me. You want me to read the book? Fine, I'll tell you about the book. No, but in all seriousness, it's just bad Wattpad etiquette. Um, but yeah, no, what I did was I found reading groups, right? Someone was asking me how to do that recently because the forums are gone. I mean, Google. I think if you just Google Wattpad, you can actually Google Wattpad books and they'll show up. So if you Google Wattpad book club, I'm sure something will come up, you know? And then you can just ask to join and collaborate. Or you can go to people who are at a similar number of reads and followers to you, and you can boost each other, you know, read each other's work, um, and grow that way. I think that's a really good way to do it. And that's what I did. I was reading other people's work. We were required to like comment on at least 3 chapters,
yep.
and that kind of thing, which really helped with engagement, which pushes you up in the algorithm. So that's what you're trying to do, really, is just build engagement on your work so that the algorithm picks it up and decides, hey, this is a book people want to read, and starts promoting it.
Yeah, actually do the work.
And then I also got involved, exactly. And then I was also promoting my book in the forums, but that's not around anymore. So maybe Discord is the alternative to that. Finding Wattpad Discord groups.
All right, great. Well, tell me something. Okay, my whole thing is the first chapter. How many times did you rewrite the first chapter of Given? Because I know from my
Hmm.
own personal experience that I've started off the book writing a chapter a certain way, and then by the time I get to the end of the book, I have to go and rewrite the first chapter because you know so much more about the story and where it's going that you can give little bit more influence, little more story. But what was your process
Mhm.
for your first chapter? Was it rewritten a lot of times?
It was, yeah. I think at the very in the very first draft, it didn't even start with her at home. You didn't even get to meet her family. It was just straight into her entering the academy,
Wow.
and I missed out on a lot of a yeah chance for world building and bonding there. But as I grew as a writer, I realized one that I needed to include that, and two that I had the skill to portray that kind of familial bonding um, in an efficient way in the first chapter. Um,
You're in on okay. So for Wattpad, your original first chapter did that end? Okay, darn it! You just said that it changed. Okay, because I was thinking that at the end of the hunting scene would have been like the perfect end of the chapter, especially for Wattpad. But for the print book, it keeps on going until in Baba something happens with him and they have to rush off.
mhm.
So would you have cut it at the end of the hunting scene for Wattpad before?
I'm pretty sure it is. The Wattpad chapters are very different than the chapters of the print book because uploading chapters for digital reading is a lot different, I think, than
Yeah.
print reading, especially for these online reading platforms like Wattpad, because there's a couple of reasons, right? And again, it pertains to tricking that algorithm and getting it on your side. You're trying to get as many reads, and each part is a read. So the shorter they are, the better. But of course, if they're too short, then it just becomes like ridiculous, right? So you need to balance giving people enough of a story that it feels satisfying, but it's also it feels like people are making progress. I feel like when you have longer chapters online, people lose interest faster. I'm not sure what the psychology is behind that, but definitely for Wattpad chapters, I did my best to keep them around 2,500 words, never more than 3,000.
I think it's the process of scrolling. A lot of people are reading on their phones and they're
Mm,
scrolling, and it's with a
hmm.
long chapter, 6,000 words. You're scrolling. It's an infinite scroll, but with a book,
Yep.
it's so much different. I can't believe
Yeah, you're
that your
turning pages.
yeah, I can't believe that your first chapter didn't involve that. Well, okay, I can believe it, but the what you ended up with for the first chapter was so engaging, and it gave us the characterization and the action beat immediately. Do you what are your views on um, people stressing too much about the first chapter? Do you think they should just go into the rest of the story and just come back to it later, or just figure it out?
Yeah, I think you need to. In your first draft, you really shouldn't be trying to write a perfect first chapter because you're probably going to cut it. Especially if you're a new writer, you always end up cutting that first chapter or changing it. Because by the time, like you said, you get to the end of the book, one, you know more about the book, but you also know more about writing in general.
Yeah.
You're usually, the average person takes a couple years to write a book. You're telling me you're not going to grow as a writer in that time? You know, the including the books you've read in that time, the movies and stories you've consumed in that time, you're going to change, and your first chapter is going to change because of it. So don't stress.
Okay. One of the things that my editor just beats into me is that first paragraph. because she has this whole belief about how first paragraph should be built, and don't even talk to you about the first chapter. Did you find yourself learning anything about writing and introducing your characters?
Learning anything while I was writing? Do you
Yeah.
mean during the editorial process?
Yes.
Um, the first chapter in the print book, is largely the same as the first chapter that was online, because by then it had been reworked a couple times,
Okay.
right? But I guess I learned more about including information that I think that people know, but actually they don't. It's just I have all this information in the back of my head about what's happening because I know the whole lore of the world and everything, and I think I explained it, but then somebody who doesn't know what I know will go and read the chapter and be like, what's happening here? What does this mean? Why is she reacting like this? I'm like, oh, because of this. So that's why you always that's why editors exist, because they have an objectivity that you don't. And on top of that, readers also have that, but editors can actually articulate what's wrong with the book and help you fix it.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us where we can actually find the book. Where can we buy the book? Where can we
Mm-hmm.
find the book? Where can we find out more about Nandi Taylor?
Yes. So Given is sold everywhere. Books are sold. Your local bookstore, Barnes and Noble, Waterstones in the UK, Amazon, Indigo in Canada, all those wonderful places. Indie bookstores as well. You can also call, and if you want to get it from your indie bookstore, ask them to order it. Um, the Wattpad website also sells copies of the book, the Wattpad Books website. And the as for me, I'm all over all over social media. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, of course I'm on Wattpad. I have a YouTube channel as well. Um, you can My Twitter is just Nandi_Taylor. Instagram is Nandi T author. YouTube is just Nandi Taylor. And then of course there's my website where everything's all amalgamated. So nanditaylor.com.
Okay. That's awesome. Great information. All the links are going to be down below. Feel free to go ahead and click and buy Nandi's book. Buy it. Okay. Nandi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rodney.
I will see you around Wattpad.
My love is like a flower, I'm trying to get you over. Your light love sour.